Good morning. Welcome to Java 1. And I'm very happy to start one of the very first sessions on mobile Java and embedded track. My name is Michael Samarin. I work for a Finnish company called Futurize. And we are a software project house helping our customers to create great digital products for the past 12 years. And we work in Finland, Germany, UK, and we literally cover all mobile platforms and all web platforms. And we got to work a lot with Nokia also, and with the Nokia developer organization. We are helping to create the developer training for different platforms and all kinds of interesting projects. And one of the technologies that we are using is mobile Java on their Series 40 platform. And this is something that we are going to talk about today because they've released pretty interesting new devices this year, and they are announcing some new devices also just a couple of weeks ago. And this is something that very interesting to talk about because in North America and Central and Western Europe, Scandinavia, developers are concentrating on smartphones so much, and then basically it's if you walk down the corridor in here in Java 1 and talk to your fellow mobile developers, you can hear the questions like, aren't all people in the world are using some kind of Android and iPhone? And the answer is no. Actually, majority of the people on this planet are using the just a small and inexpensive mobile phones, and most of them are actually mobile Java powered. And this session about this platform, what's new on the Nokia Series 40 devices. And I hope you'll enjoy it. And to make it more interesting, I really encourage you to ask all kinds of questions at the end of the session. And for every person who will ask a question, we'll have some giveaways from Nokia, the USB keys with the Nokia, and some Nokia t-shirts, and the best 2 questions will get actually this Nokia Asha 303, the full QWERTY and capacity touchscreen mobile phone, and there is Bluetooth, NFC with digital noise cancelling. So please ask me questions. Okay, enough about introduction, let's go on. I have 4 goals today. First of all, for those who are not familiar, I'll tell a bit about Nokia mobile platforms. Then we'll talk about what's new in those Series 40 platforms in the mobile Java. And then I'll show a little bit about tools. We'll talk about application compatibility. We'll talk about porting. And then finally, we'll talk about basically the business opportunities that you as developers do have and the companies do have if they are working with different kind of mobile Java platforms, especially on Nokia Asha series. And if you take a look at all the devices that right now on the market, and this is the whole range of mobile Java devices that are coming from Nokia today. And as you can see, the scale is huge because we are talking about the devices in the retail price range from $30 to $120, and we're talking about unsubsidized prices. So this is a full price, and then most of these devices, you just go to the store, you buy them without contract, and then you pop in your SIM card, and that's it. Something that quite unusual in States, but that's totally normal in the rest of the world. And some of these devices are actually dual SIM, so you can pop 2 SIM cards with the different operators, and one business and one for personal use. And all of these devices are mobile Java, and if you see the more traditional one, they are either QWERTY or with the NaviPad and with the soft keys. And the last part in here, what you can see, the Nokia Touch and Type devices that combine the touch input with the keyboard. And the very last device, they were announced this June. We are talking about full touch devices that remodel the look and feel of the Meet P, and we are going to talk about those devices mostly today. And for example, what we've got announced during 2012, we have the cheapest Series 40 mobile Java device, Nokia 100 series. We are talking about price range $30–$35. And then we have full QWERTY landscape, the device Asha 302, which actually it has a gigahertz CPU and it costs less than $100. So the mobile Java is flying in there. And at this side we have this full touch Asha 311, which is the fastest the mobile Java device released up to date from the Nokia, and I mean in the Series 40. And there are at least 5 new devices today, and 3 of them already in consumer hands, and people are trying and using them right now already. So let me show you that these devices, we are talking about price range within $70 to $120 if you consider them as the premium mobile Java devices in the consumer space. And it is almost smartphone-like experience, but these are very simple mobile phones. They do have budget CPU, they do have small amount of memory, and they do have mobile Java as the development platform for the third-party developers. And at the same time, the jump from the traditional soft keys and the QWERTY and the T9 keyboard, the jump is so significant because the look and feel of the devices is completely different. Let me show you one short video how it looks like now. And remember, what you see here, it is not advertisement of the smartphone. This is a mobile phone that is within $100 price range, and we are talking about totally new user experience. And whatever you see here, it's basically MID-P. It's a standard MID-P that you can package into those interesting devices, and so with the premium games that are coming with the devices, and all of these that you can see here available for you as the third-party developer. So you can put together your apps and you can ship them with these devices. All right. So right now we have how many? We have 5 devices. They are combining different hardware specs. We are talking about the CPU range between 200 megahertz and 1 gigahertz, and we have small amount of memory in there, and they are really fast, and they are really cheap. So the next part we are going to look at how different UI today that you can see on the Series 40 devices. What's new? You get the new Nokia SDK 2.0 for Java, and it comes with the new Nokia IDE that is the Eclipse based, or as the Java developer, if you are familiar with the NetBeans, you can integrate this with the, your NetBeans and Mobility. And at the same time, there are some changes at the MID-P, how the MID-P is look like on this new full touch experience. And at the same time, there are some extensions with the Nokia UI that we are going to talk about. Then you have LWUIT that was optimized for Series 40. LWUIT is quite big and complex library, and to make it run on Series 40 within those small memory footprint, it's quite a challenge. And there was a special project where the developers actually optimized for the memory footprint and for all the new native features that are available for the developers. And of course, for you developers, the new features would be how do you work with Nokia maps directly from within your applications that are just tiny jar files within 2 megabytes of the jar file size that you have available, and how you can work with the multi-point gestures, how you can work with the sensors, and what are the APIs you can use for monetizing your applications. And these are UI components that you can see, and they are available on a full-touch Asha devices, and at the same time they look nice and great, and what else? The most important part that these are just standard LCD UI components. So if you have been creating midlets for like 5 years ago, if you just bring this midlet and you run on these devices, it will automatically pick up platform look and feel with these components. And it's actually pretty cool because in most cases, if you've been targeting mobile Java platforms before, you don't have to, at least on a UI level, you don't have to change the component set. You, of course, might have to change architectural and ideological. The approach is how you develop if you're jumping from the keyboard to the full touch. And full touch UI, we have 240 by 400 pixel screen that is available for the developers, and there are new ways how you would handle the standard Mid-P keyboard inputs, because we used to have soft keys, right? We used to have a navi pad, and now it's all gone on full touch. And Nokia did very interesting work. They introduced special areas. They introduced the action buttons, they introduced a category bar so that you can, no matter if you've been developing for keyboard-based phones, you can still have them available in the new system menus that we have in the action buttons. And there are two new extensions. There is an icon command that is extension of the traditional command from the LCD UI, where you can customize the icons and you can customize how just the standard Mid-P commands look like. And there is a new category bar that is not part of the Mid-P, and it's a quite simple class, and it allows you on the Mid-P devices and on the mobile Java devices to create the tabbed user interface, something that you had to do as the custom user interface before. And if you allow me to go ahead and start the emulator, of course that's pre-recorded video, I'm not controlling it with my mind. So this how today full touch devices look like. And if you jump to the NetBeans and just with the standard Visual Designer without writing even a single line of the code, if you drop in standard LCD UI components with the Visual Designer, let's see how it will look like on the emulator. So what you get automatically the kinetic scroll and something that you had to do as the custom before. And now, for example, let's drag some commands. If we'll put some string items on the screen, and we'll change some titles. And let's turn the string item into the button. And in order to do so, you have to associate it with the icon command. And let's add some action. When you click on this button, you'll get some kind of alert. And these are all, I would like to repeat, these are all standard Mid-P and LCD UI components. And you can customize everything visually in the NetBeans. And this is one way how people are actually learning mobile Java. And you associate the item command with the button. And then here we go. If you just jump and start it on emulator, you have platform look and feel automatically without writing every single line of the code. And what is really interesting in here that if I'll start dragging the standard item commands that look like the, for example, soft keys menu before, now you'll get them in the special action buttons area. And at the same time, you can use it on a totally non-touch devices, because it will give you backward compatibility. Now let's talk, that was about the standard LCD UI, and now if we talk about LWUIT, who is familiar with LWUIT? At least one person is familiar with LWUIT, great. So LWUIT is quite old Sun Microsystem project that will create the totally custom UI available for small footprint devices, for the set-top boxes, and at the same time for mobile phones. And this is a standard Mid-P library that allows you to create totally custom user interfaces, and it is quite a challenge to bring it to the really, really small footprint devices, because you have to deal with the severe memory limitations if you're talking about, for example, $30 device, right? And LWUIT was optimized for Series 40 during this summer. Optimized means that all those new APIs that were modified in standard Nokia implementation of the MID-P, they were changed to utilize all those new features and at the same time support Nokia UI gestures. And there is a special project at the Nokia developer website that you can check out, and you can get all the sources at the same time. And the LWUIT is basically swing style development on the mobile platform. So what you see here, we create just a regular forms and setting up transitions, and you are putting up the standard layout managers and standard actions, and you're just adding this component just like you would add on a swing form. That's what LWUIT brings to the mobile platform, put to the MID-P, and you have it up and running. With just few lines of the code, you can add to your standard standard MID-P platform, you can add the transitions, and you can add totally customizable look and feel, because one of the strong features is a re-scheming or re-theming of the entire platform. And with the Series 40 optimized version of the LWUIT, you will get automatic picking up of the platform theme that will be in your custom LWUIT application. And what is really interesting about LWUIT, that you can ship special resources where you can completely recustomize entire theme of your LWUIT application. And in this resource file, I have right now added 2 themes. And you can load dynamically those themes on the fly in the device, and we'll just uncomment 2 lines of the UI manager that will pick up the standard theme number 1. And you have reskinned your application without reprogramming. So basically you can, after even your application was compiled, you can create new themes and you can ship them and you can rebundle them in the jar file. And now we'll change it to the second theme. And what we have here is a totally different look and feel that was changed just as the resource without touching your user interface. And again, guys, I would like to repeat that this is something that you might find as quite usual in the smartphone world, but we are talking about applications that are living within 2 megabytes of the application size and with the maximum 4 megabytes of the available Java heap space. And to fit all of this into those is actually pretty awesome, believe me. Okay, let's move on. There are a series of demos on Nokia developer website. When you download, or if you download the PDF with the presentation after the conference, all those links are actually active, so you can check them out. There are several demos that were optimized specifically for Series 40, and I would like to show you one of the actually pretty complex applications that was created with LWUIT library. It's pretty big, and at the same time it demonstrates quite a lot of complete customizations that you can get rid of if you want to. You can get rid of the platform look and develop completely different user interface. It was written in the form of the puzzle game, so where you can create totally custom user interface, you can simulate a windowing user interface, and for example, you can, in this specific application, there is also illustration how to manage memory quite efficiently, because it's graphic intensive application and you have to fit it into the small scale again. And it was also integrated with the device camera, and the pretty cool part of the Nokia SDK emulator that you can enable your web camera of your computer, and it will become this is me, and it will become the camera feed. And so I'm taking the snapshot on the emulator, so I can emulate completely hardware of entire phone, and then I just turn it into the slide puzzle, my face. Okay. So that was about LWUIT. And again, if you are not familiar with the mobile Java, the LCD UI, it's the way how you develop with the standard platform provided user interface, and that's the way how midlets were created for ages. At the same time, if you want to create the totally custom user interface, you are doing it with the canvas, basically just drawing your applications. And LWUIT was done on top of the canvas drawing, and it gives you the swing-alike architecture in your mobile Java applications. Let's move forward. And mobile Java picked up on Nokia platforms the touch. And if you consider mid-P, that the pointer events, they were available for a really long time. But what is really interesting, because now on those inexpensive and budget-oriented mobile phones, we have a touch which is basically multi-point touch. And this is not part of the mid-P, so they got to be extension in the Nokia UI how to handle those multi-point touch events. And you can register gesture listener, and there are at least different kind of gestures right now. We see the tap, long press, drag and drop, flick, and pinch to zoom. And this is all available on the mobile phone user interface. And I have a short demo that illustrates at the same time the 3D capabilities of this budget-oriented platform, and at the same time we are registering the standard gesture listener. There is a special gesture registration manager where you can just register and listen for the specific gestures. And all you have to do also support the orientational changes, because those devices now are coming with accelerometer. And it's very simple. You just build these switch constructions where you just recognize different kind of gestures as the events, and you have them implemented. And in this specific example, we are loading 3D objects. This is a real 3D. It's not faked 2D. It's done with the GSR 184. And when you are just dragging your touch point across the screen, you have the rotation events, and we are applying those on 3D model. Right in the emulator, you can jump into the landscape mode with the correct reorientation of the touch events. And what is really interesting, and it's a little bit weird way how emulators support the multi-touch. You can pre-record your gestures and pinch to zoom gestures. There's a special recording manager where you can record one by one complex events. So for example, I'm dragging from the center 2 events, and then you can execute them at the same time, and you are simulating the pinch to zoom on this platform as the recording. And exactly the same way, what you can do is you can record the backwards. So I'm pinch zoom in a negative, and then I'm executing those gestures at the same time. So this is a gesture recording manager that you can use, and it's pretty decent if you don't have direct access to the device. So this is a gesture recognition manager that you have on the platform. But at the same time, if you don't need gestures, if you really, really want to track multiple points, then you have access to the lower level multi-point touch events. And the cool part that right now it supports on the low end, it supports the 2 simultaneous touch events, and you can assign actually IDs to each tracking points, and you can track them based on the IDs, and it's pretty interesting. And you can have a callbacks when the positions of those uniquely identified touch points are changing. And it's pretty straightforward, not as small amount of code as before, but you have to register multiple touch events in your application. And this specific application is just receiving pointer changes, and it's tracking IDs, and based on those IDs, it's just drawing with the different colors. So it's a very simple paint application that supports multi-touch drawing. And all you have to do is recognize where we are touching down and releasing our touch points, and that's where we are creating the drawing events. So here is a very simple illustration again. We are drawing, and each new drawing will be with different color, and we can use again the multiple gestures recording. So I will record drawing to one direction and another direction, and then I will execute them at the same time, and each time it will be drawn with the different color. And right now it's a simulation on 2 fingers are drawing in the same place on the screen. All right. If you want to play with the device later, I have the actual devices in here. So these devices, if you have a time after the conference session, so these are real production devices, so you can play with them and see the smoothness of the user interface. Okay. And now let's talk a little bit about sensors. Again, the sensors API, it was available for a really long time as part of the MIT-P. But it totally depends on the device vendor, which part of those sensor APIs are going to be physically implemented and which are not. And this is very interesting and unique that this is really budget-oriented device, and it does have accelerometer in there, which is pretty decent and pretty accurate. It means that on very, very low end, you can provide the gaming experience with the accelerometer, which is pretty similar and equivalent to the high-end smartphones if you draw your graphics in a really nice way, and if you build your application in such a way that architecturally you will decouple your drawing loop and you will decouple the, for example, sensor querying loop. So it's not like querying sensor is driving animation, but basically you can have a separate threads, and in this way on really low-powered devices you can create pretty stunning gaming experience. And I have a short demo again with the emulator. It's a car racing game that draws 3D graphics with GSR 184. And it's using standard sensor API with the MIT-P. However, we can query the platform if we do support the accelerometer. And if we do support accelerometer on this platform, then you can get the respectful channels to register those accelerometer events. And during the processing sensors, all you have to do is just to get actual accelerometer data and convert it into the your, for example, game action. And what we have here, infinite running surface, and with some kind of car and some kind of a trees. And there is a new accelerometer simulation where you can, just by dragging the device, you can start controlling. It's very simple code, and at the same time, if you're buying, for example, $50 device and you get this experience, I think it's pretty remarkable, because again, I would like to stress, we are talking about not smartphones. These are regular mobile phones. And you can simulate all kind of the accelerometer events with the emulator. And I guess I'm not a very good driver. As you can see, I'm running through the trees all the time. Okay, so that's about accelerometer. What do we have next? The next we are going to talk about map APIs. Map APIs is some kind of a hot topic lately because of another newcomer to the space of the mapping APIs, and it's really the question of who is getting it right and after what time. But the cool part that the famous Nokia maps are available on Series 40 platform, and in some devices they are coming with the pre-installed map city data, so you don't have to spend your bandwidth for downloading the map tiles and map information. And what is really nice, that you can integrate those map APIs into your midlets, into your MIT-P standard platform midlets. You can get the Nokia maps. And there are multiple levels of API supported, from the very simple just displaying the map based on the given coordinate, and you can use Nokia Maps Search, you can use reverse geocoding, and you can support the KML, and all you have to do is register yourself as a developer. It's a free program, and you just have to acquire the keys to run the maps. And there is no approval process, it's instant process. You just have to associate map keys with the specific application, and that's all. And we have very, very short demo in here. So, of course, the maps are coming not from the standard MIP, but from the Nokia classes. There is a COM Nokia Maps package. And all you have to do is create the instances of map canvas that is extension of the standard canvas. And here, the part where you just have to set up those keys that you acquired from the Nokia developer program. And then in this application, we are creating the very simple standard list with the pre-recorded coordinates of different cities as the one view. And when we select the screen, I would like to jump to the Nokia Maps, and I'm just getting the display to the canvas, and then whenever the list is selected, I'm just jumping and forcing this map canvas to the specific coordinates. And when you run it on the device, you see there was a request for dual SIM. There is a simulation of dual SIM operations, and when I select the card, I can use the specific data connection, and I'm getting access. For example, now we select Helsinki, Finland, and with the multiple zoom levels, and now it's loading tiles live, and you can zoom in all the way to the street level and even more to get the local merchant data, etc., etc. And now we are jumping to the other Finnish city called Tampere, and then of course we have to go to the London, and where you can see, for example, also all kinds of metro, and you can draw custom interest points on the map. You can get the custom interest points from the Nokia, and it's pretty nice and flexible API, and it works really fast. And again, we're talking about 4 megabyte heap space where you can fit all of these. Okay, and compatibility. If you haven't been a Java developer or mobile Java developer for other platforms, then it might not be an interest for you. But at the same time, if you've been involved into the mobile Java for a long time, then of course bringing your old midlets to the new platform is always a challenge. However, the cool part that there is a full binary compatibility. You can take any Sun Microsystem example from the web, from web archives that is like 5 or 6 years ago, one of the Sun Microsystem old tutorials on the MIP, and you can drop them in to these new devices, and they will work, and they will smartly remap your actually hardware-based keys to those new action buttons and action menus. And at the same time, if you build with this new SDK, you can drop exactly the same MIP jar file to actually older devices or the devices that do not support the full screen. Because if you're using the LCD UI components, that's the benefit of actually standardization, that multiple vendors, if they support MIP, they got to support this as the standard, so it works. And interesting solution for example, if you were using some kind of a game canvas and you were using the game pad, or you are using the number pad for making your game actions, and you are querying the keyboard all the time, right? And if you drop it to the full touch devices, there is no keyboard, there is no simulation of the keypad in there. But what is happening, you can enable the mode where when you are actually doing the swipe gestures or touch and drag gestures, you can simulate the navigation pad, so you can bring old MIP games to the new platform with the increased performance, and you don't even have to rewrite the keyboard querying manager, because it's kind of, you can simulate it directly on the game canvas. And there are a few ways how you can do, of course, if you care about your customers, you really have to do the optimization in terms of how you build the architecture, etc., etc. So there are multiple layers how you would do that. For example, with the high-level UI, we are talking about standard LCD UI. As we discussed before, it's an automatic conversion. You don't have to do anything special. And most of the work will go into the custom graphics because lots of people were creating their custom UIs. And of course, one of the major application development was done on MIDP into the games. And you have to change of course, the screen resolutions. And you have to take here increased amount of speed on the devices. Because if you were working with the devices that are some ARM-ish CPU below 100 megahertz, and now you have a gigahertz device, then you actually have to rewrite your architecture a little bit so it will be actually manageable in terms of the game speed. Okay, and when you would like to utilize the new APIs for the gestures and multi-touch, there are ways how you can build even with the single code base and target multiple device groups, and it's done with different ways. You can do it on the IDE level, you can create multiple builds with the basically if-defs, especially working really well in the NetBeans. You can query the device APIs during the runtime, and there are multiple of training webinars at Nokia website that train you how to do that. And also, if you take a look, if you've been, for example, a BlackBerry developer for a long time and you're looking for jumping your applications to the Java-based BlackBerry phones to the Series 40, there are multiple ways how you can do that, because there's an apparent match between the standard full QWERTY landscape resolution devices, and this is something that is the concept that was brought by BlackBerry. And when you are moving that to the new full keyboard devices, you can do various different things in there, but you again have to remember that we are talking about full-blown smartphones, and we have to scale it down to the mobile phones with the low memory footprints. And BlackBerry developers, they are using the RIM extensions for the MIDP, or basically they have their own application framework that was written on top of the MIDP. And of course, you have to do quite a lot of changes in there. But if, for example, you are working with the this slide illustrates that now you can actually jump also with the full canvas and full touch devices. The cool part that if you are making the games for BlackBerry, then you're right in, you don't have to do anything. You can basically just recompile with the Nokia SDK, because the games are created with the canvas on BlackBerries also. So the canvas-based games and game canvas-based games that are in BlackBerries, you just have to reroute the BlackBerry APIs into the MIDP APIs. For example, there are BlackBerry Map APIs, and it's almost one-to-one match on the API level how you work with the conceptually they're a little bit different, but it's not significant work to take your BlackBerry applications and drop them into the Series 40 platform. We have a big set of tutorials at Nokia developer website where you can actually the step-by-step guidelines how to transfer your BlackBerry applications, how to port them to the Series 40, which parts of the platforms are easily portable and which are not. And there is also quite big section how to take your existing Android applications and how to scale them down to the MIDP with the Nokia APIs. And now let's talk about the business opportunities that developers do have. So right now, there are three options how you as developers on any mobile platform, how you can make money. Two are standards: in-application advertisement and the in-application purchases, and of course commercial apps. But do we have at this room iPhone or Android developers? Please raise your hands. Come on, don't be shy. Are you guys in the App Store? Do you make enough money to live 1 year from the application purchases? No. And believe me, nobody does. So the question is that on any store, there are multiple ways how you can make money, and out of hundreds of thousands of developers who are in any store, there is only a handful of development houses and big gaming houses who are making decent money. There is even smaller amount of people who can sustain their family for 1 year, but we are not talking about like multi-year process of sustaining yourself with the application development. And for those who do have still dreams that they can make money with the app stores, there are two ways how you can make money. In-application advertisement that can bring you revenue into your free applications, and the in-application purchases. Because if you are part of the game studio or if you are part of the bigger application chain, then you can get a guarantee that your platform will be shipped in the store in a big amount of money numbers, and then it makes sense to use in-application advertisement. And on Nokia platform there are two in-application advertisement vendors, Interactive and vserve.mobi. And at the same time, there is an in-application purchase API that is available for Series 40 right now. And I have listed devices in here, and at the top and the second line, these are expensive mobile phones that are in the range from $50 to $100. But take a look at Nokia 100 series. These are the smallest and most inexpensive Series 40 mobile Java devices. They are like $30. And the in-application purchase is available for those devices also. And those devices that are shipped in hundreds of millions of units outside of United States and Europe. And I'll show you some statistics in the end, what kind of numbers we are talking about. But the cool part about the full range of the Nokia devices is that the set of GSRs is almost identical across all these devices, from the lowest end to the high end within this price range. So it's really easy to target multiple devices. And I have recorded very interesting video in here. So this application was created by my colleague Paul, actually. And it's a simulation of the purchase process, and we are registering special product IDs so that you can ship your application with DRM'd game items inside. And only during the purchase process, when you will get notification from the server that those items were purchased, you will get those DRM'd items activated. And if I'm using this, you see I'm getting stuck on the query to the server. But the cool part that you can unplug connection from your computer and you can simulate entire purchase procedure with the offline API. So you can have complete simulation of purchase process offline, which is actually pretty decent. And what I'm showing right now, I'm adding those fake product codes that are inside my jar file, DRM'd, and I will run here with different pricing model. I will run simulation with the offline server, purchase server simulation when I am purchasing those items. So right now there are no purchase items. I'm going to the store and I'm getting the list of all items available, and I'm doing the purchase, and this image, it was DRM'd unlocked right now. I will go again and I will buy the second item, and I have it available in here. And with all those APIs, there are multiple checks. For example, you can verify if certain items were purchased already. So this is a pretty full-blown purchase API that is integrated with the Nokia accounts on your devices. And there are multiple ways how you can use that. You can bundle your DRM items within the jar, or you can buy just activation keys through the store. For example, you can enable trial mode, or you can for example, allow access to the specific parts of your website, so the devices will be purchased. Devices will be purchasing the API different kind of items later. So this is something that is available for third-party developers today, and we are talking about microscopic payments. But if you scale it to hundreds of millions of devices that are in there, that brings us to the very significant numbers. And The last part, I strongly recommend you to check out the remote device access. So there's a lab in Finnish city called Tampere in Nokia where they have literally hundreds of devices mounted in the dark room, and you can query access totally for free to each individual device, and you can get to those devices, you can see the remote screen of device, you can upload your items in there, your jars in there, and if we do have actually the network connection, I can briefly actually show you how it looks like. So this is a form where you query specific device, and for example, I can select any of these devices, and let me select one of the, for example, let me check this one. I can book it for 15 minutes directly in here, and what I got right now, I got the Java Web Start small part, and I'm launching it directly in here. So I have it on my secondary screen, and as soon as it will start, I will drag it to you, if we do have access. Okay, so this is a Java Web Start application, and what it does right now, it is trying to connect to the remote device access right now, and if we have the network working, but it seems like Oracle network is pretty down at the moment. Okay, it's really slow. Okay, so this is physical screen of the device located in Finnish city Tampere, and I just got 15 minutes access to this device directly from this room. I am even simulating with my click the touch. And so this is a physical device that is sitting somewhere across the ocean in Finland, and you can upload to this device your local applications. I have a form on this screen, so where you can, this is a file system of the device, this is your local file system. So, and if you don't have access to physical devices, that's the way to go. It's pretty nice. Okay, let's go back to the slides. This is statistics I want to show you that we've got official permission from Nokia to show. There are 675 million active Nokia devices, Series 40 devices. Active means they are physically connected to the store today. So these are active purchasing accounts. And there are, for Series 40, like 100,000 items available. And the cool part that they have now 16 million downloads a day, and altogether there were 6 billion downloads since the Nokia Store was run. But the cool part that during the first billion, only 13% was coming from Series 40, and at the last billion, over 40% was coming from Series 40. So we're talking about huge amount of active users who are at that platform right now. And there's a pretty long text, what kind of developers are achieving which kind of downloads, and we are talking about at least 3 big developer houses who are reaching over 100 million downloads. And we have 500 developers who are having more than 1 million downloads, 63 development houses more than 10 millions, 41 over 25, etc., etc. The interesting part also about that again, we have such a huge opportunity in here, but we are talking about like hundreds of thousands of developers, right? So the best business models that exist today when you're targeting mobile platforms is associate yourself with the big vendor, with the broadcasting house, with the operator, and do subcontract them, or let them subcontract you, because people do not like buying stuff from the stores. They would like to get stuff for free from the stores. And it seems like the current tendency right now that only when you are associating yourself with the big company and you are do subcontracting, that's the place where you're actually making very nice profits. That's how we operate, how our company operates. I would like to say special thanks to our colleague from Nokia, Andres Jakel, who was making huge part of these materials available. And thank you very much. And I hope that you would have some questions, because we have at least some giveaways and we have at least 10 minutes for questions. Thank you very much. Yes, please.
So the Nokia JDK, is that free?
Yeah.
And the emulators are free?
Everything is free, yeah.
Does it come with a profiler that is device-specific, emulator-specific?
Yes and no. So basically, historically, every SDK targeting new platform. So you can use older SDK targeting the platforms that were released before, and you can install them simultaneously. You can have multiple SDK living on the same computer, and they are not conflicting. You just have to run them one by one. So but that's the way.
I would think if memory is an issue and CPU
of course.
is an issue, you want to run a profile in the background.
Yeah. So what you have few options. With the Nokia Eclipse-based SDK, you have automatic profiler. You can select the device based on the specific category, and then I'll show you actually pretty cool thing that is extremely helpful. Again, if we go to the Nokia developer website, there is a device matrix. If, of course, the Oracle will let us go there. Let's try again. Yeah, the network is working. So, there is a device specification, and what you have here, the huge list of all Nokia devices ever released, and you can start pretty complex expert device filtering. And in here you can specify each individual parameter, whatever you want. For example, this screen size, you want this amount of memory, and then in here you can specify all of this, and you can get the full list of the devices that are supporting specific device matrix. And please come forward. You earned yourself this wonderful thing. Yeah, of course. This is for you. Any other questions? Yes.
A lot of effort is being spent to accommodate these sophisticated interfaces with Java on like kind of limited hardware.
Yeah.
And it's being compared to smartphones a lot. So how do you think the gap between these phones and smartphones will change over the coming years?
It's pretty difficult to say, but at the same time, if you've been watching the last weeks, they released two new touch Asha 308, 309, and some of the agencies are calling them official smartphones, even they are not.
I mean, I can barely tell the difference.
Exactly. And this difference will be blurred over time more and more. So this is $100, 1 gigahertz CPU, super powerful mobile phone, because we are talking about it's some kind of ARM11. Well, ARM-ish CPU in here, gigahertz ARM-ish CPU. But for the developers, what we have available here, only 4 megabyte Java heap space. And now try to bring any of the bigger complex applications. So you have to do still quite shuffling. But the low memory footprint, and for example, there is no GPS hardware in here. So the point of having maps in here to get the external GPS over the Bluetooth, or to use Cell ID. And Cell ID works pretty decent in here. So we are and why is that? Because it's like something like 6 to 5 times cheaper than any next cheap smartphone. Well, there were quite a lot of comparisons that, for example, this device provides kind of the same functionality as the original iPhone, because there is no multitasking and there are all kinds of background executions that are not possible. But at the same time, you do have access to the maps, you do have access to the phone books, etc., etc. It is very interesting world we are living in, and I strongly encourage us developers who are living in US and Central and Western Europe and Scandinavia to actually look outside of the bubble of the smartphone world, because we are talking about such a huge amount of people who are using these. It's really, really interesting. And of course, you earned yourself also the...
If I could put in a small plug, Wednesday at 11:30, I'll show you the same app running on a high-end Android phone and on that phone, and you'll see it's actually, in many cases, faster on this phone, simply because of differences in the architecture and the way the UI works.
Okay. Any other questions?
So when you guys write apps, do you write them to port to several devices, or do you write them straight for devices?
We are a software subcontractor. We've been doing it 12 years. We write natively, always. We have super talented developers. The entry barrier to our company is pretty high. And so we get guys who can adapt themselves to different platforms and jump on a daily basis. In my team, we used to run 12 projects at the same time, and I'm talking about a team of 10 people within the company who are targeting the specific group of the applications. And we run easily hundreds of projects every year. And we discovered that if you are indie developer, you are trying to find all kinds of ways how you can minimize your time expenses, and that's where the cross-platformness and cross-platform APIs and universal APIs, they do come handy. If you are big subcontractor, you want to provide the best user experience ever, you always write native. So that's the approach that we found out. It's really who you are, what kind of business model you're doing that.
There's software out there that allows you to write once and port, right? Like PhoneGap and Accelerator, but that's strictly for smartphones, isn't it?
If you come on Wednesday, I'll show you another way.
Yeah.
Wednesday, 11:30.
Yeah. Plus, can you write an accelerometer-based 3D game with the PhoneGap?
I
No.
think you're stuck there.
Yeah.
You've got to abstract that out.
Yeah. But trust me, those billions of people out there, they don't care about you saving your time using the PhoneGap. They just want the best app for free now.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the reason. Yeah. You had a question over there.
What about logging and diagnostics?
Sorry.
Logging and diagnostics?
Yeah. If you download this free SDK, you can get pretty interesting access to basically what happens underneath, and you can profile your applications on the pretty deep level within the SDK, with the emulator. It comes to a more limited scale when you are going to the actual devices, because the on-device debugging, it's kind of cumbersome. At the same time, again, you can use the good old way how we used to do it 20 years ago. You just do printouts and the code to the console, and that's how it works actually. So, yeah. And please come forward. You have yourself also this fantastic item in here. Okay. Yeah.
How about the browser support for this Nokia platform?
So again, Series 40 platform, there's no WebKit. You can't fit WebKit to this microscopic amount of memory. So what they did, they bought some company. What was the name?
It should have been Opera, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it shouldn't be Opera, but it wasn't Opera. So they bought another one.
Navara, yeah.
Yeah, Navarre. They bought this company. They have a proxy browser. So there are server farms in Mountain View, in China, and somewhere else. Yeah, somewhere in Finland. There are server farms. What you get, you have all the content compressed in their site and sent to you to your browser. So the browser is okay-ish, but then if you remember, it's a mobile phone and it costs 30 euros. It's fantastic then.
So one more additional question. From percentage split, how do you see the Android, worldwide, Android, iOS versus, the Nokia or the pure Java ME devices?
If you compare the total shipments of the smartphones with the mobile phones, their recent stats are saying that we are talking about, at this moment, 900 100 or close to a billion smartphones shipped. And we are talking about several billions of the mobile phones shipped. So that's, you have a t-shirt that's falling off my table. Okay, please. Yes, please. They are going to kick me out now, but please go on.
The small file size, is there a restriction in the graphical format for uploading for images, like
JPEG, PNG, animated GIFs.
okay, and the last question is, do you know whether this will be able to be ported to BlackBerry 10 once it comes out?
Of course not. Yeah, get yourself the key. And I will select you as the receiver of this and you as the receiver of this NFC
Thank you very much.
headset. Thank you, thank you. And if you want to see the device, please come forward and just check it out.